All right, guys, welcome back. It is December 26th, 2025. Obviously, the day after Christmas. And I'm just out running a few errands. Thought I'd take you all along with me for the ride. I'm mainly doing this right here because for Christmas, one of the things I got was the Insta360 Mic Air, which is this little black dot you see right here. I have been wanting this for a while now. I just haven't pulled the trigger on because I've been spending money on other things. I couldn't justify it. I got this, and it's also compatible. I didn't know this before, but it's also compatible with smartphones. So I'm recording this on my new iPhone 17 Pro Max with the Insta360 Mic Air, and just a little bit that I have played around with it sounds absolutely wonderful. And why I'm excited about that is because I have been trying for a long time to find a good mic that wouldn't cost me an arm and a leg for the iPhone. The problem is if you get really good ones, they're pretty expensive, and then you can kind of only use them for that, for the iPhone. But the Insta360 Mic Air can be used on all the Insta360 products, which I have 2 cameras from them, which is primarily what I wanted this for. And it wasn't until after I opened the box and was looking through the instructions I realized I could use this with my iPhone. So yes, I'm really excited about that. It's nice to finally have a good microphone for it, and I can even put a dead cat on it if I want to. I don't have it on here right now because I'm in the car, but if I was outside, I would wear it because I don't like wind noise, and nobody else does either. Now, the other thing I have going on at the moment is I have this on some rigging that I had asked for. These different little contraptions, accessories, and whatnot, whatever you want to call them. It's kind of a clip that can clip onto a lot of different things. It's on my rear view mirror. I'm just trying this out. So if the phone moves around, if it looks out of balance, or whatever the case might be, forgive me, because this is just simply a test for me. So right now the phone is actually much more in my face than normal. And it's these people were like right on my tail. Sorry, I got a little distracted. But the phone is much nearer to me than what I'm used to. So it's kind of like, oh, it's like right there. But it probably won't look too bad playing it back. And in truth be known, this is probably something similar to the setup that a lot of people have when they vlog in their car. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really excited about this. I mean, I know it sounds like something simple, but anytime you get new stuff, to play around with for your camera setup and everything, it's always exciting. But the sun is like right there at the moment. Another thing I got too recently, not for Christmas, but I got my screen protector for this phone is just like the one that my coworker has. And I was asking about it. I said, I really like the way that looks. And it's a matte, M-A-T-T-E, screen protector. Yeah, see now, this is moving around a little bit. I feel like the phone is a little bit cockeyed. Anyway, so the screen protector itself is anti-glare, which it's not glaring in my eyes as I'm looking at it now, but hopefully it won't be glaring when you're watching this video back. So anyway, just stuff I'm toying around with. And I got a few other things relating to, the use of my cameras. Yeah, see, this is like, I feel like this is tilted too much. I don't know. Maybe it's my rear view mirror that's moving. I bet you that's what it is. Because the phone is pretty heavy. It's a Pro Max. It's kind of heavy. Well, anyway, so how was your Christmas? What did you get? I don't really care about getting things necessarily for Christmas. I really don't. If I want anything, I'll provide for myself, just like I provide for other people if I need to. It's just it's not the same as it used to be, of course, the older you get. And that's not to say that Christmas doesn't have joy. It does. It just becomes something that represents something a little bit different than it was when you were a child. The funny thing is, I think the best memories we have of Christmas for the most part is from our childhood, right? The elation we have in anticipation of opening up gifts either on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning. We always did it. We always open up gifts on Christmas morning. We always did that growing up, and I prefer it that way. I like having something to look forward to on that day, right? And we were always in church services on Christmas Eve anyway, so that was part of the reason why. And then, we had other fun things we did on Christmas Eve when we got home. So we always opened up gifts on Christmas morning when I was a kid. But I loved it, and I have so many good memories of that. So as you get to be older, as many of you know, some of that excitement kind of fades away, doesn't it? It just it disappears, right? Well, things happen. You've had more time for things that actually happen in your life that could leave a sour taste in your mouth. Hopefully, you've developed traditions within your own family or within your own routine to kind of overwrite some of that, right? I think that's what traditions are good for. You have certain things set in place that you do no matter what, so that you don't fall into a slump or get too crazy one way or the other, right? So I think that's what that's good for. But every experience we have in life has a peak moment, doesn't it? When it's the best that it's ever been, or as good as it's ever going to get, and we're forever chasing that feeling once again, which is why people do drugs. That's why they get hooked on them, and they're looking for that same high they had before. So they either have to move to something else, graduate to something else, or devolve into something else, however you want to look at it, and becomes a slippery slope. But it's not just with harmful substances we do that with. It's just everything in life. Buying a new car, buying a new house, a new relationship. All of that is exciting and great. And you have these peak moments that just cannot be replicated in any other time, even with the same person. But it doesn't matter what we're talking about. We always keep chasing that, and if we're aware of that, it's easier to manage. But if we're not thinking about why we don't feel as good about things as we used to, then it's just kind of depressing. And Christmas can be that way. Now, I'm not depressed about Christmas. I love Christmas no matter what. I feel like I'm really talking a lot. I'm used to projecting my voice, because there was a time when I didn't have microphones. Anyway, there was a time, there was a time in my teenage years when I started outgrowing some of the aspects of, getting gifts from your parents and all that, I'll straighten this back out again. I started getting depressed. I started feeling really down. Well, that kind of went away as I got to be older. And, when you get into relationships and start to have kids and whatnot, it all changes, because now you have new experiences. You're bringing children into the mix, and that's fun. It's fun allowing them to experience Christmas for the first time, or for the 8th time, whatever. It's always exciting. But as they get to be older, it's for me, at least personally, it's not as exciting as it once was. But I think it's just being aware that it's not necessarily supposed to be. There's no need to be. ecstatic every time. There's no need to be trying to top a previous experience and make this one better than the last. There's no need to do that. It just is what it is. And if I think, part of the thing, if you're talking about Christmas specifically, if you can remember the real reason why we celebrate Christmas, that makes a big difference. But some people don't even acknowledge that. But it's the same way with birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. It's the same way with that. And we just want to avoid disappointment, and that can be a challenge if we're not mindful about it. There you go, blocking some of the sun now. If we're not mindful about the potential disappointment, then we're bound to encounter it. So now we're heading into the new year, and inevitably this is when people are going to start talking about their plans, their resolutions. Sometimes I make them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I even go so far as to say I never make them, and then I inevitably do. And the reason why I do that is because I'm kind of a goal setter anyway, and I'm actually trying to learn to back off of setting so many goals. I heard something one day on social media, of all places. That's where we hear most of the stuff we hear. Any new ideas that rise to the surface usually come by way of social media, right? So I heard someone talking about being less focused on our goals and being more focused on our method. And anytime I hear something that I've never heard before, I sit up and pay attention. And I gave it considerable thought, because here's the thing. If you're a goal setter, you never stop setting goals. And one of the reasons you don't accomplish a lot of them is because you're setting too many, and you're setting them too high. And a lot of times you're setting them needlessly. And we hope that accomplishing a goal will give us some kind of validation one way or another, right? But inevitably it doesn't, really, for the most part. So many of them are dashed as it is. And so the crux of the message this individual was talking about, and I can't remember who it was. I wish I could. I wish I would have saved it. He said that, you don't want to really focus so much on a goal, but focus on methods that help you get further ahead, basically. Can you picture what I'm talking about? And I think that makes more sense than a lot of things I've heard in a long time. I really do. I think it makes more sense than a lot of things. Someone messaged me on Facebook, someone trying to promote their regimen, their services, their, what do you want to call it, systems. So they asked me, what are your goals for the new year? And so I replied, I'm not really going to focus on my goals. I'm going to focus on my methods. And I probably sounded like such a rookie. Here we are. I think this is going to fall off. Yeah. My little contraption here may not be working as well as I hoped. But nevertheless, let me get back to my subject. I said that like a rookie, right? I'm going to work on my methods. Like I really know what I'm talking about. This person did not inquire what I meant by that. He might have rolled his eyes as he might have should have. But yeah, I think instead of thinking about what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, I need to think about how I'm approaching every single day, instituting patterns and behaviors and steps that generally get me ahead rather than specifically toward one fixed purpose. And I think that other things will just develop as you go along. Does that make sense? One of the things he said was that when you are setting a goal, when you're setting goals, you're telling yourself that you haven't accomplished something. And that's not good for your psyche. That made sense. That made a lot of sense. And he made it sound like, the further he talked, and I can't even really repeat what he said because I can't remember a lot of it, but it made an impression on me. There's more downsides to being a goal setter than there is to being disciplined enough to work on things that are set in place for you to just get ahead on a daily basis. In other words, you're setting the stage for progress. So that's what I'm working toward. I think that's what I'm going to focus on. And this video is not really a New Year's message, not a New Year's resolution message. It's not that. It's really, it is just about trying this stuff out that I've got up here, hold my phone. It really is just about that. I just keep talking and see what will come out of my mouth. But yeah. So it was productive either way. I'm going to learn something about this microphone. I'm going to learn something about the things that are holding my camera up, whether I want to use them again or use them in the same way. But maybe through all the babbling, maybe we've gotten something out of it. And believe it or not, guys, even when I'm not making a video, when I'm driving down the road, I'm talking to myself like this. I know if people would think I'm crazy, you might think it's crazy. I think it's all about tapping into that other side of ourselves that's probably a little more reasonable and rational, and you kind of become your best friend. Here I am rambling about something else, but this is actually how I talk to myself. I told somebody one time that I've been asked before, why do you make these videos? My response was, well, really, I'm mainly talking to myself. And I'm saying things that maybe I need to hear again someday. So I go back and watch the videos at a different time and go, oh, I'm glad I said it. Sometimes I wonder where I get this stuff. I honestly do. They come out of nowhere. But they're buried down deep in there somewhere. And so I think talking to yourself is a really good thing to do. That might be something you might want to start incorporating into your day if you don't already. A lot of people tell me they do. I just wonder how they do it, because there are different ways to do it. The thing that got me started years ago was I read a book by a man named Shad Helmstetter called I'm going to screw this up. How to Speak When You Talk to Yourself, something like that. And he was writing that so many of us speak negatively to ourselves, about ourselves, and that sets us up for failure and low self-esteem. And he teaches you in that book how to talk to yourself. I'll put a link for it in the description below. Yeah. One thing I have at the tip of my brain that I cannot let go until I say it. And this sounds completely random, I know. But for Christmas, I got my youngest son a book called Chopin's Letters. Now, some of you know that I play the piano. My youngest son plays the piano, and he likes classical music. He likes to play classical music. And he picked up a book full of Chopin's, I don't know, I can't remember what they were called. Anyway, a book full of his, music book full of his compositions. And I think that's his favorite composer. So I found this book online, Chopin's Letters. And when I got it, before we wrapped it, I read a few of his letters. And I thought, that's a great thing to have. Because, this thing is still sliding. Because you get into the mind of the man himself. And I think if you can do that, maybe it'll change the way you play, right? I would think so. I mean, I did that when I was playing ragtime. I would find out why Scott Joplin wrote certain pieces, what inspired that, and then I would try to imitate that mood, that edge, right? And I think that makes a big difference. You know, a whole video could be made just about that, but I'm not going to do it here. All right, guys. Well, I am going to go in and try to adjust my phone bill. When I bought this phone, the guy at our carrier told us that he's actually going to lower my bill. I wasn't expecting that, but he did it significantly. But I've got to come back in right as soon as this due, which is like tomorrow. I'm going to do it today and do this. So, you know, I didn't know they had that much leeway. Makes you wonder how much they can do. They're not telling you. All right. Thanks for joining me. And I hope this was good for you as it was for me. I learned a few things about this stuff. I've got to do something different because I have to keep moving this camera. I have to keep moving this phone, I mean. So anyway, I've enjoyed it. I'm glad I got the opportunity to connect with you again. And I hope to be able to do so again tomorrow. But we shall see what happens. All right, guys, stay safe. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to think of something to say, but I'm just going to stumble over myself. So I'm going to leave you with this. In the meantime, be wise.